Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I hope everyone's staying awake and has gotten their fair share of caffeine in, especially after getting in this morning and the circus we all had to go through. I'm honored to be sitting here amongst these esteemed global leaders today as we discuss using innovation to transcend human living for the betterment of mankind. So now for me, exploring the human side of innovation means large-scale systematic change that will better organizations and society, not just as a society, not just individually. So today we have with us Andrew, Felipe, Christian, and Hans, who will be discussing how we use this innovation and we leap mankind ahead of its time. So thank you all for joining us today. So where exactly do we start, and what does it mean, and how do we better the mankind? So Hans, as I understand, SAP's mission is to help run the world better and improve people's lives. Can you explain how you achieve this?
So the question is to me,
Yes, Hans.
I can hear you really bad. Maybe they turn up
So
the speaker.
SAP's mission is to help run the world better and improve people's lives. Can you explain how you at SAP do this?
Of course, certainly. So you're right. So the purpose of our company is basically to run the world better and improve people's life, basically by certain areas. And I can give you a few examples of some companies. Basically, we are also grouping this, and you may have heard our CEO this morning about ESG, about social governance, about economics and so forth. But just one example, for example, what we have done when the pandemic started about 2 years ago, at more or less at the same time, right, in January, February in 2020. So a lot of I'm based in Germany, and a lot of citizens from Germany have been outside in the world, and the German ministry, foreign ministry, actually were been asked to bring all these people back to Germany. So the ministry contacted us with a request to build a repatriation app. In Germany, we call this Rückholprogramm, DE. So what we have done is in very close collaboration with the German Foreign Ministry, we basically developed an application built on our business technology platform, and we did this within 24 hours. So with a very tight collaboration with the ministry, we've been working with our employees around the world, and we really built a very, very strong team, and what we call this Stronger Together. And we had data security experts, data protection experts really to build this. And within 24 hours, we launched this app, and within hours later, 100,000 of people around the world from Germany downloaded this app, registered themselves, and actually with a request, how can we get back to the country? So I call this, how can we help the world run better? And this is for us, it's now, I label this under the term velocity, right? And this is something also what we need to be very fast, agile, within the Internet of Things.
So how do you envision this technology being spread outside of Germany and its citizens, and how is this something that you foresee that can be used globally, not just for German citizens?
I see, okay. So, there are a few examples. We heard this also this morning from our CEO when we look at these, right? There are other companies like, I'll give another example, Telefonica, which is a very large telecommunication operator globally under the top 5. So they have more than 100,000 employees. And with the change of how we're going to sell products, how we're going to consume products, it's very different compared to a few years ago. So the challenge for Telefonica basically was to reskill all their employees to sell those new products and services to the field. So what we have done here, and this is a customer of ours, they are leveraging our telemanagement platform, basically, to learn, to adapt, and we call this adaptive learning in that particular case. So we use the SuccessFactors learning management platform, and we also added some artificial intelligence and machine learning on top of that to really find out what kind of skills do certain individuals have and what do they need in the future to be able to sell these new products and services. So this was a project which was globally for the Telefonica operation, which we have done quite successful within days, basically, to leverage that learning capabilities in an adaptive learning way with using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and our human experience management platform.
And now, how long did this take you exactly to get it up and running once the pandemic started? How quickly was
I can hear you really bad here.
How quickly were you able to launch this once the pandemic started? This technology.
This particular?
Yes, this particular technology.
So
from ideation to launch.
Yeah. So the success factors, the application itself, actually was already launched, was already used by Telefonica to really skill their people, transform their people, build the pipeline for the future with young talents for the organization. So we basically leveraged what they already have. What we have added was just, some artificial intelligence components, machine learning, to really drive that adaptive learning process for the organization.
Amazing. I'd like to turn to Andrew now from Visa. So now, as we're talking about system innovation, Andrew, in the world of payments and commerce, what role do you see innovation playing in truly making a significant difference, not just for individuals, but for society as well?
Thank you, Dina. I'll just go back to what the last speaker, Nena, said, which is we live in unprecedented times and in a world of access now. And a lot of us take things for granted. So most of us here have mobile phones, we're financially included, we have access to the internet, and there's a digital divide emerging. We need to be cognizant of the fact, though, that 1.7 billion people around the globe lack that access, whether it's access to a mobile device, internet, or financial inclusion. And we know that there are significant challenges associated with that. The same happens actually on the small and micro business side, where they tend to be the lifeblood of economies. They tend to provide over about 90% of the businesses in the economy and tend to employ about 50% of the people. So not having access to the digital economy is a real problem, and the divide tends to grow. So we're really focused on the things that we can do to make that better with our partners and ecosystems. And we know through economic research that for every 1 percentage point increase in digital payments in an emerging economy, you see a 3% GDP growth dividend. And if you take that that's on a macro level. On a micro level, if you're a small business and you're financially excluded, you can't reach new consumers, and if you're a consumer, and you're not included, you're also limited to the cash in your pocket. So small businesses that have access to new consumers, accept electronic payments, and then get access to credit, their profit tends to be 17% higher than those that are excluded. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia really gives us a great example in their 2030 strategic vision of making sure you get inclusion right, and they've made amazing progress. So consumer financial inclusion in the last 7 or 8 years went from about 46% to in the high 70s. We've seen the same things with small businesses. So about 5 years ago, only 200,000 small businesses and merchants here were accepting payments. There's over 1 million today. So a lot of progress made, but we all need to stay very focused on making sure we get this right so we don't have haves and have-nots in the digital economy.
Now, you've launched a new initiative at Visa called Visa Everywhere. Can you talk about what led to this initiative and how it's going to help with the social impact cause?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just announced today that we're doing our Visa Everywhere initiative. This is our 6th year doing it, and we're doing a Saudi edition. What the Visa Everywhere initiative is, it's our innovation and collaboration platform. So we have a contest. We invite fintechs and startups to come in and try to solve real-world problems around commerce, around payments. This year we've included it to include the ability to do remittances and also crypto. So during the course of the first 5 years, we had over 7,000 startups participate from 100 different countries. And after that, they've been connected to VC funders and other players in the ecosystem through our partner Connect, and they've raised over $2.5 billion. And they tend to really be able to make sure that economies stay vibrant and innovate with the existing players and the non-traditional players. So we're very excited about the announcement. The final will be here in the end of May, and then they'll have the chance, the winner of the Saudi edition will have the chance to participate in our regional, Central Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and hopefully they will go on to compete and win in our global version as well. So we're really excited about it.
Amazing work. Great. Felipe, I think this is a great segue to you. So now as we're talking about social impact and as it relates to the 2030 vision here in Saudi, can you talk about how governments, and especially the Saudi government, can achieve their goals to satisfy the citizens here using their services, also, AKA customer happiness or citizen happiness, using some of these technologies? And what examples do you have of how this has been achieved thus far?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Slightly.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a very big question that you
Yes.
have asked there. And at Software AG, we see two things that the government needs to do. First of all, to find a way to turn the data they have into value for the benefit of the citizens, which is a very complicated task. And the second axis is to get to the next level of process excellence. Software can help achieving that based on what is in place right now. You need to implement what we call an agility layer. In Software AG, we call it a digital integration hub that will liberate all the data in the various silos of the various ministries in order to expose them and do something with that data. Of course, you also need to put in place an organization that will deal with that. And in Saudi, I just want to say that I have the chance to visit probably 15 countries constantly. So I'm in contact with a lot of government organizations. And I want to tell you that the organization which has been put in place here is amazing. First of all, the Council for Economic and Development Affairs, which is a new thing that has been set up here. Fantastic, that developed this Vision 2030. I read it in the plane. It is really very complete. Then you have a lot of organization below that help to get things done, like Sadaya, like the National Data Management Office, like DGA, like all of those people working on smart cities. All of those people are really needed in order to think about where they start from, where they are, and where they want to be. So all of that to achieve the ultimate goal, which is, as we said, the citizen happiness and the citizen satisfaction. Some example, very quickly. As an example, for those who are coming from abroad, they had to ask for a visa, and now you have a system called the e-visa, which is a 5-minute work. Well, this is something that Software AG did with the ministries here in order to have a simple portal, and then all the system check where it needs to be checked and authorize the visa or not. That's just an example that changed completely the image of Saudi, to my point of view, outside this country. This is great. We are working also on an employment hub for the youngster to make sure that we match skills with a job offer, and also for the companies to be able to look at the skills for what they need. So that's a simple thing, but that changed completely the life of all of those people. We have also things like all of the processes when you change house, when you have a new baby, when you need to declare it to all the ministries. It's a very complicated thing. We can automate all of that very easy, magnifying all the work which has been done in each of the ministries. So we think that this can be done, indeed. And everything is in place to have it done.
What do you would say are some of the barriers to achieving citizen happiness in Saudi? And what do you think are some of the barriers to achieving complete citizen happiness in Saudi?
Well, I think it's the organization that is put in place in order to get things done. I think technology is not a limitation anymore. Things can be done, can be well done in a safe way, in a secure way. We don't see any issue on that. So you just need to empower people in various organizations, such as I said, what I think is done here. I wish it would be done in some other Occidental country. It's not, I can tell you. So I think that we have an opportunity here to get things done very quickly and achieve the 2030 vision.
And do you think resourcing is a problem, or education? Do we need to bring in people from abroad to accelerate this, the achieving, the Vision 2030, or do you think the citizens within this country can do that?
It's a very good question. It's a mix of two. For sure, education is the number one priority, I would say, for Saudi, like in any nation. to my point of view, that's a very crucial point. But of course, you have organizations like ours that can contribute to help. We also contribute as Software AG to the Saudization of our subsidiaries here, where we train youngsters in order for them to become our employees and really contribute to their countries. So I think it's a mix of those two. And it's, of course, over the next 10 to 20 years. It's not immediate.
Great. Last question. This is for Christian. So a lot of you have been hearing about the metaverse lately. I'm a bit in the unknown and the dark side. I have no idea what metaverse is. Why does it even matter? Do we really need to care about it? So Christian, can you help shed light to why should we care about the metaverse? What is it? And how is it going to propel us into this new world order?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think for the purposes of the answer, maybe it's important to separate metaverse from kind of Web3. You know, lots of conversations kind of bring those two things together. And I think there is a case for having them be a better together story. But maybe in the context of some recent events, and let's pick the pandemic, because it seems like everybody else wanted to use that as a theme. I can't imagine that there's a person in the room who hasn't suffered from, or maybe is still suffering from, video conference fatigue. The effects of that have been well documented, and I think over the last 2 years it's been incredibly unnatural for us all to be locked out of our offices globally and be forced not into work from home, but what we actually do was live at work. So we extended our working hours, we took fewer breaks, and I don't have a problem with video calls and video conferencing, but the problem I have with it is that it's two-dimensional. So we don't have the same capability to interact like we do here. We don't see the world in 3D when we stare at a screen for 12 hours a day. And so from the metaverse perspective, I think given the fact that it's, at its very definition, is a 3D construct and a 3D visualization of the physical world, I think there's a lot of hope that I pin on that for collaboration going forward, especially if the notion of hybrid work, where we're not all tied to one location, is going to be the norm that we see coming post-pandemic. So I think within that context, I also think that the collaboration element of that will give rise to some, what I would call peripheral technologies, such as augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, that really haven't found mainstream adoption, and certainly not in industry. Maybe they are more in the consumer world. And just for the metaverse alone, Morgan Stanley have suggested that this could be an $8 trillion market opportunity in the next few years. So it's very difficult for technology companies to ignore this. I think the one thing that worries me a little bit about it is that it might not be in our working lifetime. If we think about the demographic shift and we think about the younger people coming into the workforce, and I'd like to talk about teenagers for a moment, because I have 3 of them. And my teenage kids have grown up in the world of 3D. They've grown up collaborating with their friends in Minecraft. They've grown up learning and playing in Roblox. And they've also become accustomed to wearing different devices to immerse them into that 3D world. So I think it's highly likely that when that age group reaches the workforce, they'll be much more comfortable with immersion in a 3D world, bringing physical objects and renditions of those objects into the workplace, combining that with data and applications and new workflows. And I think that's really, really interesting from the point of view of what that might bring, not only in the kingdom, but in the rest of the world, to a new generation of workforce. So let me park that for a moment and talk a little bit about Web3. And I think, although the two things are separate in the way that we think about them as technologists, I think the way I would position Web3 is really a new kind of plumbing for a new kind of World Wide Web. You think about some of the things that we've seen historically in the where we had Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and now with Web 3.0, I think there are two fundamental things that are going to drive big differences. The first one is that being an enabler for new business models. And I think those business models will certainly in the first iterations be based largely upon cryptographic technology, token type technology that enables new types of business models. And I think the second thing, and perhaps most importantly, in trying to tie that back to the change in demographic, I think the expectation of a new workforce is that they will have more command and control over the types of digital content that they create, share, and interact with in this new world. So we're already seeing some examples of that with things like NFTs, non-fungible tokens. But I think what we'll find is that organizations will be very ready to adapt that new kind of thinking. And you can sort of see where that goes from a business perspective. Maybe we're talking about smart contracts or new workflows that are able to transcend traditional legal or geographical boundaries by using this type of new technology. So I think if you put those two things together, the plumbing and some of the use cases, and are they compatible? Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Amazing. So as we're wrapping up this panel, I would like each of our panelist members here today to give us some food for thought. Where are we headed with automation? And leave each of the audience members here today with some practical advice. You know, we all come to these conferences and we leave all gung-ho, and then 2 days later we forget everything that we've spoken about. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to each of the members here today, how they can contribute to innovation and bettering mankind?
So maybe if I may start. So what's certainly a challenge for all of us, and we heard this just, is that, you know, it's not about the technology or the people, it's really, you know, to adapt and be able and willing to transform. And certainly for the younger generation, it's easier than for the, I don't want to call my generation here, but maybe you know it. But it's a little bit more difficult for us. I also have kids, right? Sometimes they're going to tell me how to work on my iPad or my iPhone and do this and do that. And here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have a program, global program, which is basically the empowerment of the youth people. It's called YPP. And here in Saudi, we already have skilled about 650 Saudi nationals to really on their soft skills, on an SAP skills. We're also working together here in the Kingdom on a dual study program with 8 universities, where also, you know, people are coming into the country and into the company. And with more than 100,000 people, it's very important that you get those young people into the organization who are really driving and helping to drive that change forward, right? I think this is for some of the organizations, and we have a lot of customers, as you know, around the world. Some of these organizations we see, even if they have the technology and they could leverage the technology, but some of them, they're not really willing to really adapt it and implement it and use it going forward. It's not just about doing a technical transformation from one system to the other. It's really about changing the business processes, adding the value, you know, being aware of that users are different to before. So the adoption and the willingness to transform, I think this is a key part, and that conference here, I'm sure it will really help and sustainably help, to use that term, going forward and drive this generation and support the Vision 2030 for the kingdom.
Excellent.
Sure, I think that the one thing I would leave as a piece of advice is to embrace as much automation as possible. You know, I think the days of the augmented worker are already here, whether we readily recognize it or not. And I think a lot of the software-based robots, hardware-based robots, technologies like artificial intelligence are already here and helping us to remove a lot of what I would call busy work from the things that we do every day. You know, there are lots of things that computers and technology are really good at, such as repetitive tasks and highly automated functions. And there's lots of good things that humans are good at, such as emotional reasoning and creativity and making decisions and strategies based on experience and lots of other conditions that are understood and absorbed much more readily by humans than they are by robots and technology. So the reason why I think it's important is that what we really ought to be trying to do is free as much of our human capital as possible to work on the things that drive innovation. And I think the question I get asked all the time is, how many jobs will robots replace? And I think the answer is a lot, but perhaps the question more is how many jobs will be created by freeing up the brilliant, smart people in all our organizations to actually work on the things that drive business and let the robots and the technology do what they're good at, but more so invest in the humans and let them do what they're good at.
Excellent.
Okay, so my advice would be, I don't think my mic is working.
Maybe a bit closer.
Hello? It doesn't work. So maybe you can go.
Is it not working?
It doesn't work.
Yes.
It works now. Okay. So my advice would be, go for it. Go for it. I'm addressing that to the young people here. I advise them to read 3 times the Vision 2030 document, which to my point of view is one of the best documents that I have read since a long time for a nation. And they should participate in contributing in that document. It's fantastic. If I would be a young person here, I would do that, 100%. That's my advice. Go for it.
Great practical advice. So I hope everyone does their homework when they get home.
Yeah, so it's hard to add on to what my colleagues have said. I would add just... Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's hard to add on to what my colleagues have said. I like just go for it. I would say to be constantly curious and be a lifelong learner. Those are skills that never go away. I will touch just another dimension. We talk about the work environment, but we live in a planet with lots of problems as well. And I think we all have the ability to use innovation for good. I have a daughter who's obsessed with sustainability, and we just launched an eco-benefits platform where you're able to see with every transaction you make the impact on the environment. And you can either change your behavior, you can buy carbon offsets. So there are many different ways we as consumers can use innovation for good in the planet. And I'd also say it's great to get the training and skills to be productive members of the workforce. Keep in mind that social good that we can all do as well as consumers.
Amazing. Well, there you have it. I thank each one of you for coming out here, leaving us with practical advice and food for thought, or tech for thought in this case. And I hope everyone will reflect on everything that our panelists have shared with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.